Hello guys, how are you doing? So today I'm back with new content, and that is harnessing the power of GraphQL in WordPress. So welcome to the awesome thoughts, and let's explore the GraphQL in the WordPress world. Okay, let's proceed. So let me first explain what is GraphQL. So basically, GraphQL is an querying language that has more power to the front end and was developed by Facebook around 2012 to solve the massive amount of data and to solve the problem of the enormous amount of the API calls with the help of the GraphQL, and that was later open source in 2015, and it is considered as the replacement for the REST, as there are other protocols, other standards, for example gRPC, TRPC or something. There are many things evolving, but REST and this GraphQL is considered to be one of the replacement alternatives for the REST, and it is strongly typed. All the schemas are already defined, that have to be already defined. Basically, graphical development is done in two ways. One is code first approach, and then another is the schema first approach. In schema first approach, we will first define the schema and then we code. But in the code first approach, we first write codes, write interfaces, and then compile those interfaces to the schemas. And so that is how we define the schemas. And it has a declarative data fetching, and also it has the standards. Unlike the rest, we can make however or whatever we like in the rest, but that is not true in the GraphQL. There are some declarations, there are some standards, and we have to follow that. And another important thing in GraphQL is the endpoint. It consists of only single endpoint, and that helps to fetch all everything throughout the software, or throughout the client and server communication. So there is only one endpoint. Okay, we'll see in the demo. But next thing, okay, in today's date, who is using GraphQL? So if we talk about fintech, there is PayPal. Fintech giant PayPal is using the GraphQL, and another streaming giant Netflix that uses GraphQL, and they have designed their own version of the GraphQL that is called Falcon, as far as I remember. And another tech giant Coursera also uses the GraphQL. Another Shopify also uses it. GitHub also uses it, and these are the few platforms that uses the GraphQL. Obviously, Facebook do use GraphQL because they have invented it, and they are somehow maintaining it. But there is open source community, but they are also maintaining it. They are also supporting it. So Facebook obviously uses that. So these are some references of the company that are using the GraphQL in today's date. And why GraphQL but not REST? There are many reasons, but if we pinpoint, the major reasons are: first one is GraphQL solves the problem of overfetching, because the REST APIs, the endpoints we made, have contains the unnecessary or extra amount of information, and that may not be used by the client. So GraphQL, what happens is only the required fields, or only the fields that are necessary are only fetched. So it solves the problem of overfetching. And similarly, if there is overfetching, there is underfetching as well. There may be some fields are missing in the REST endpoints, and another endpoint may need to be added. But this is not true in the GraphQL. Only single endpoint, and updating this schema would solve the problem. And another thing is maintainability and scalability. If you talk about the maintainability and scalability, in the REST world, there are multiple number of those endpoints, and if that have to be updated, if that have to be maintained, then updating only single endpoint may not be enough. So you have to go through all the endpoints, go through documentation of all the endpoints, and update accordingly. So that there is the scalability problems. There are too many endpoints to manage. And why GraphQL? Yes, GraphQL solves the overfetching and underfetching issues, and then it speeds up the development. Is the maintainability, scalability is easier, and there is no need to no need to talk about the inputs. The only one inputs will work. And another thing is the all the documentation or type are defined, so that will generate the documentation or schema, and front-end developers or API consumers can take help of that schema, and they can integrate easily in the front end. And another thing is the rapidly changing requirements. If there are changing requirements, then we never never have to consider the endpoints. We directly go into the implementation, directly deal with the data that is necessary, and we'll update the schema, and then process the logic accordingly. So the development will be faster, and the feature development will be speed up, obviously. And if you see here, here is the difference between the REST and GraphQL endpoints in the WordPress world. WordPress have the REST API, WP REST API, that is under WP JSON, WP-JSON v2 /post. If you query for that, then you will get the list of posts. And then if you have to face the users, then you have to /users, and you have to face the user detail, and then /user ID. This is the standard for the REST. But in the GraphQL, we can query all those information in the single endpoint. If that has to be achieved in the REST world, you have to make the 3 API calls. If you see here, for post, and another one is for fetching author detail, and another one is for fetching category detail. But in the GraphQL, you can take help of this single query, and you can query whatever you need. So this is the difference between the GraphQL and REST endpoints. Let's talk about the schema. Schema are the collection of GraphQL types, as I have already mentioned, and this is how the schema definition looks like in the GraphQL. Basically, these are the kind of contract that has to be written so that client and server can communicate properly. And these are strongly typed, strongly defined. The types are strongly defined. If you see here, the type for the ID is integer, for title is a string, and for status you can define it as a string, or for more safety you can add enums and possibly status, and then define the type, right? Once the types or schema are defined and the schema is ready, then front end and back end can independently work on their own business logics. On their There's no need to consider what will happen in the back end, or it may fail. No need to worry about that. You only deal with the type, and then that will be enough for you. Okay. Let's jump to another core concepts. There are basically in the GraphQL there are basically 3 things. One is query, another one is mutation, and then next one is the subscription. They have their own functionalities, and I'll describe one by one. First thing is the query. Query is basically used to fetch data. In the REST world, all the endpoints that has a get method are supported by the queries. You will face the results, you will list the post, you will list the authors, users, feature image, and such. So these are the things the queries will support. And next one is I have used the third-party plugin. This randomly fetches the dart jokes. Yeah, this is one of the veggie joke that was listed at the time of querying. For the in WordPress, if you use the third party plugins, then if they have the support for GraphQL, then only checking the allow GraphQL will work. But if they don't have that, you have to specifically define that on your plugin or on your functions, so that that type will be supported in the GraphQL plugin or WP GraphQL. Okay. And next thing is mutations, and mutations are used for creating create method, update methods, and delete method, patch methods, and on such things. If we have to update, if we have to deal with degradation, then there comes the mutation. And mutation is used for creating post, updating post, or anything, any APIs and any data. If you have to do such things, then you have to take the help of the mutation, right? And next thing is subscription. If there has to be any kind of notification, then for example, if you have the e-commerce store, and if someone places the order, and in that scenario, it will be helpful if you get the notification or order request. If you know the order request as fast as possible, then that will be really helpful and impact your business, right? So in that scenarios, you need the subscription. You have to be subscribed with the topic, subscribe with the order request, and if you run the news portal, in that case, if there is breaking news, and in that case, you have to listen, subscribe to this the breaking news, or any kind of the updates, any kind of results, right? And in that scenario, we'll use the subscription. And subscription is basically the kind of the notification handling, asynchronous kind of thing. If there is no subscription, in the ideal cases, like in the rest order, you have to poll continuously if there is a there is some kind of update or not. You have to poll for that. You have to refresh the endpoints, or you have to refresh the page, and something like that. Or you have to implement the web sockets, and that sockets will handle the notification part. Or you have to take help of the pop shops, like Redis or RabbitMQ, or technologies like that. But if you have the subscription, then the subscription has own kind of the transport protocol, and that will that will help that will help you easily manage the notification thing, right? And this is how the editor looks like. WP GraphQL, the GraphQL editor and IDE looks like this. And let's see a few demos, but before that, let me show you how can we achieve this GraphQL thing in the WordPress world. So first thing you have to do is you can write your own plugin, but there is one open source plugin that provides an extensible GraphQL schema and API for any WordPress site. So I have installed it, and I have taken help from this open source plugin. So you have to install that plugin, and after you install, there will be this kind of menu will be this kind of menu will be listed in the right side of your dashboard. And if you click on the GraphQL ID, then this interface will open. And if you click on this button, then that will this result will be obtained. But you have to understand what things are these, and how this how from where this query come from, or from where this mutation come from. You have to understand things like that. Okay, so it is easy. All the queries or mutations are mentioned in this documentation. These are the categories and comments, and this is the type for the type for the what is it? It is comment. Okay, and from here you can take help, and you can update the query and proceed accordingly. Or here in the documentation, you can navigate through the post and pages and things like that. Some things are mentioned here, but all the APIs and the schemas are updated in the schema or docs. So if you don't find anything in the WP GraphQL documentation, then it will be better to navigate through the docs, right? So this is how we can achieve the we can integrate the WordPress, and we can utilize the power of GraphQL in the WordPress world. Okay, let me show you through the Insomnia. This is the Insomnia, one of the client, and let me little bit magnify it. In the rest world, let me show you. If you have to query for post, then this is the endpoints. Here you can see ID, date, and date GMT, GUID, modified date, modified GMT, slog, status, type, title, content, excerpt, and things like that. Author, there is no name for author, but there is ID. But these all information are kind of bloating, right? They may not be necessary for you. So to cater this solution problem, sorry, you have to take help from the GraphQL. This is how you can query the required things. Like you in the ideal case, you need, if you had to list the post in the front page or post page, then you need title, and you need excerpt, yeah, you need excerpt, and then you need date, and you need the information like categories and author, right? And one extra thing you need is featured image, and that will be enough, right? Let me featured, oh, I am in the wrong object. Let me do here. Okay, featured image. Okay, here you go, featured image, and then there is a node for this entity, and you need what? You need URL, right? URL of the featured image. Let me query this, and this is how you can achieve the feature image. If there is feature image, then you will get the feature image inside this URL, right? This is how you can fetch the necessary informations in the input. You fetch only what only the fields that are required for you. Don't fetch anything. So this is how GraphQL solves the problem of overfetching and underfetching, right? And another thing is for creating post. For creating post, this is how we pass the variables, we pass the values, and then this helps you create the post. But there are some problems. There are some features that this plugin doesn't support in today's date. The things like updating image and such. Basically, in the headless CMS world, or if you have to consume the WordPress APIs, then we create post or all those things. The creation thing will be done from the WordPress backend, right? We will handle everything from this WordPress panel. But but on the situations like consuming, if you have to list the post, or if you have to list the data, custom post types, pages, all those things, you will use the GraphQL endpoint. So there are both pros and cons of GraphQL, but you have to judge the scenario, in which situation the GraphQL is suitable, and in which case the rest is suitable. In the creating post or updating post, in and deleting things, you have to obviously make the network call, right? One network call will be enough. So in that scenarios, that will be enough but in other scenarios, like for listing post, in such scenarios you can make only you don't have to make multiple network call, multiple requests. So you can take the help, or you can utilize the power of the GraphQL in such scenarios. So this is how you can utilize this GraphQL. You can use GraphQL in your site. And another thing is subscription, right? Subscription is not configured. So this message is seen. This is under development. The subscription thing is for handling notification and things like that. In near future, maybe possibly within a month, you will be able to use this subscription. Okay, but in today's date you have to implement yourself, or you have to wait for it, right? But for in simple websites, the subscriptions are not necessary. If there are some kind of advanced things, the subscription is advanced topic or advanced concept. So for basic websites it is not necessary, but for advanced things, if you have to handle critical things, you have to really notify the user, and in such scenarios you have to use the subscription. So after 1 month I think we'll be hopefully able to use this. Okay, and another thing is I have used this NextJs to fetch the post and post detail. Okay, this is how we query for the GraphQL endpoints, right? So this is the fetch API and WordPress API URL. In the WordPress API URL, in the env.local I have passed the GraphQL endpoint, right? And if you want to try, you can just replace this URI and you can try it. I'll paste this link to this repo in the description, so from there you can navigate to that, clone that, and create your env file, and then you can explore the use or implementation of this in NextJs. Okay, so in the index.js, all the posts are listed, and in the ID, this is the dynamic ID. The ID changes. id.js, the single post are implemented. Okay, let me go through the browser, and here you see this is the GraphQL next demo, and these are the list of contents that are displayed. This is the first 20 post, I think. Let me go to the APIs, and here you can see the first 20s. The first and last are the query params, something like similar to the limit and offset in the roster. Okay, so don't be confused with the terms, and these are that very simple. And for querying the GraphQL, we have to send the post request with the body, like body with the stringified body with the query and variables. Okay, variables are the parameters, something like for fetching the post details you have to pass the post ID. Okay, but for fetching all the post you may not need, but if you want to take that from the user input, for example, this is a static value, yes, right? And if you want to be controlled from the user input, then you have to take this value from the front end. Okay, so this is how the WP GraphQL can be implemented in NextJs, and this is the list of posts. Let me say, and this is the post details, right? Post detail page, and this is the title, and these are the contents. And this is how we can integrate the WordPress APIs in NextJs. And yeah, I think that was all. If you get any questions or any queries, then let me know in the comment section. And the comment section is always open for you, and you may reach out to me with this Twitter handle, or you can reach out to all the code bases or everything in this handle in the GraphQL. So yeah, I think this sums up today's video. Okay, bye bye guys, see you on the next video.